Hey everybody, Ed here with the Digital Digest, and today I wanted to share a quick unboxing of the Sony CyberShot FDA-EV1MK. Now this is an electronic viewfinder designed for originally the RX1, priced at $450, but because it supports the multi-interface hot shoe, you can now use this with a wide variety, or a growing variety, of Sony CyberShot cameras. So what's included? You've got the electronic viewfinder, a carrying case, a soft eyepiece cup, as well as an eyepiece cup, so you've got two alternatives, a cleaning cloth, a connector protect cap, that's for the actual shoe interface, and there's some printed documentation. With that said, let me get it out of the box. This is made in Japan, for those of you that are wondering, and really, if you're questioning whether or not you should buy this accessory, in my opinion, it really comes down to what camera or cameras you own. So first and foremost, we've got our cleaning cloth, as I mentioned. We've also got the alternate eyepiece, because the included eyepiece that's attached is larger than this one. So that's going to be a matter of personal preference. Then we've got some cardboard in here. Let me get that out of the way. The EVF, which is bubble wrapped, and some paperwork. So let's go through the paperwork first. Basically just your 1-year warranty, as well as what appears to be a instruction manual, quick start guide for using it. Although very quick to use, because really you just got to pop it onto the hot shoe. As I mentioned, Sony has included an actual carrying case made out of what appears to be synthetic leather, much like the HX50V and RX100 and Mark II carry cases, the jacket fit cases. And it is also actually magnetic, so it will close on its own. This is nothing groundbreaking, but Sony's design, at least for the product. They want to give you a nice carry case for what is a very expensive accessory. Little Velcro snap here in order to attach it to whatever you'd like to, but let's get that out of the way and take a look at the EVF. So this is the same electronic viewfinder that's employed in the VG30 as well as the A99, so you're going to get the exact same experience. If you've used either of those, then you already know what to expect. You've got that same sensor you'll find across basically all of Sony's electronic viewfinders, both in camera and out, in order to detect whether or not you're using the viewfinder or the LCD screen. So that's a nifty feature, something I like. That's from the Konica Minolta purchase that Sony, when they acquired them back in the day. You've also got a button right here to switch manually between the finder and the LCD. Now, this is black, unlike the EVF designed for the NEX line. Clearly, they couldn't have modified that. That was a proprietary shoe, not this new multi-interface standard that they are using. You've also got your adjustment here for the actual viewfinder to match it according to your eyesight, the diopter. So let's go ahead and pop off the actual cap. This is the protective cap they were referring to. You can see there is the actual multi-interface shoe. And let's bring in something like the RX1. So a $2,800 camera, that's why, in my opinion, if you own something like this or the RX1R, then this is an absolute must in terms of accessories, because quite frankly, you've gone the distance, $2,800 plus tax, if applicable. You may as well be able to actually frame your shots out in bright sunlight. So basically, you're just going to line it up and pop it on, and that's it. You're good to go. You turn on your camera, it powers the EVF. After all, it is on the hot shoe, and that's the look of the EVF with the RX1. And it's pretty well balanced, I have to say. The RX1 is a very compact camera, especially for its performance, but even with the EVF, it still remains relatively compact. Granted, you do have to worry about this breaking off, but you do also gain flexibility in the fact that this can articulate, something you would not benefit from if it had been built into the camera. I'm not saying I wouldn't have preferred a built-in viewfinder, but it is a gained benefit, much like the viewfinder in the NEX line. So that's, in my opinion, a really good reason to pick it up for these sorts of cameras. You know, if you're invested in a system like the One or 1R, you've got to get this, because the only other option is the Zeiss optical viewfinder, and that's more money and, in my opinion, less functional. But let's move on to another camera. Let me pop this off. Took a little bit of force, but not anything too strenuous. Now, let's take a look at something like the HX50V. This is one of the latest additions to the CyberShot family, which I've been covering. A 30 times optical zoom, very nice camera, arguably the best feature set in its class, without a question. This is yet another good example where you can use that hot shoe and again benefit from not having to rely on the LCD screen when you're out in bright light conditions, bright sunlight. So does this bulk this camera up? Yes, considerably, because after all, this is, I would say a great deal smaller than the RX1, because this can actually be pocketed. After all, it doesn't have that Zeiss piece of glass built into it like the RX1, nor is it a full frame camera. Very small sensor, $450 for this camera retail. Now, is it financially feasible to pick this up for this camera? I would argue no in most cases, but if you're like me and you already own the RX1 as well as this camera, then it just becomes an added value, really. And the same applies to the RX100 Mark II, Sony's latest and greatest, which I love this camera. And I say that because it takes everything that was great about the original RX100 and just improves upon it. And as I've mentioned in many of my videos, a camera is really only as good as where you can take it, because after all, if you're not using it and shooting with it, then it's pretty much worthless. And that's what's great about the RX100. Almost digital SLR quality in your pocket. And now, because we've got that multi-interface shoe, we can use that EVF on here as well. Now, even at a $750 price point like the RX100 Mark II carries, it's still hard to argue to pick up the EVF. But clearly, a consumer picking up this camera will be far more likely to pick up the EVF than someone picking up just the HX50V. And that's just because a matter of pricing overall. How much are you invested in the system? Now, if you own all three, which I happen to, and I am getting ready to travel with these in order to really test out the entire range of these cameras and whether or not they can replace an interchangeable lens system, because in theory you've got really nice range here, and how much more lightweight, could a system really be? It doesn't get much better than this, and you cover really all the spectrums. Incredible full frame quality with great Zeiss glass, 30 times optical reach, and then pocketable, fantastic image and video quality. So the EVF, if you own multiple Sony cameras, really is, in my opinion, a no-brainer, because it does end up getting spread across your use and definitely more value-oriented. Now, that doesn't take away from the fact that this is still $450, but overall, if you own more than one of these cameras, then in my opinion, it's probably a good idea to pick one of these up, unless you're really comfortable framing all of your shots somewhat blindly, because that's what will happen if you try to rely on that LCD screen in bright light. So this is just the unboxing, initial impressions. I already know what the performance will be like, but really love the hot swapping capability that I've got among these three fellows. So if you guys have any questions or comments, please feel free to post them. And of course, as usual, please feel free to subscribe. Later.